Susio Talk. Susio Talk. I'm on fucking salt. Salty Electrolyte Susio Talk. Hanging out at the studio, Oakland. I'm here with my main man, Ian Cobb. What's up, Ian?
What's
How you doing, baby?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Chilling. I'm good. Thanks for making it out.
No,
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Beautiful meal at Nisei the other day, courtesy of you and many others on your team.
Yeah.
And what is your position there now?
So I am the general manager and also the beverage director for Nisei side.
Okay, got you. You say Nisei side. So does Bar Iris, is that kind of...
Yeah, so they have their own bar manager over there, which is something that, I'm really happy to kind of not be involved in because
Definitely.
cocktail creation is horrible.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, so I mainly just do, sake, beverages, and wine over on Nisei side.
Mm-hmm. Okay, dope. How long you been there?
I've been there since the opening, so it'll be about 2.5 years now. We opened in August 2021.
Right. Damn. I went there like the first 2 weeks it opened.
Yeah, I know.
Had some food.
I think all of us would just say like, "I'm sorry."
Hey, man. When I went, I was like, people asked me, how was it? I was like, dude, they can't even judge it right now.
Yeah.
Especially, I like the food journalist way of doing it. Eating that place 3 times before you're like, nah.
Really?
Yeah, because you got to give it a chance. Even the best restaurants have horrible nights.
Mm-hmm.
And, we would hear about it all the time at Meadowwood. People would be like, I ate at the French Laundry last night and it was trash. And I'm like, you can't, you know what I mean? I'm like, really? It was trash?
Yeah.
Either they came in upset or something horrible happened, which is sometimes out of your control, no matter how much systems you have in place.
Exactly.
Right. And who were the lovely server that I talked to the other day who worked at the Charter Oak? What's his name?
The Charter Oak. Oh, that was Ronan.
Yeah. Ronan. He badass, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he practices in the mirror. I could tell.
He's great, man. He's been with us like 6 months, and he came in ready to rock. So we're really lucky to have that guy there.
Dope, man.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Cool. Well, here on Susio Talk, we take it all the way back. So we going all the way back. Where were you born?
I was born in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, no way. Salt Lake City, Utah. Shout out to Kevin Finch.
Yeah.
Born in Salt Lake City. What was the upbringing like?
I mean, it's pretty simple, for the most part. My parents split up pretty early when I was like a little younger there. And but they stayed friends through everything. So like, my mom always lived around the corner there, so just kind of back and forth. But growing up in Salt Lake is amazing for a lot of reasons. I mean, especially if you like to be outdoors, there's always like really good family values in that area. So, things felt comfortable. I loved it, man. Growing up backpacking, camping, skiing, hiking, all that stuff. So, it's kind of like a playground for me. And it's actually, because of Salt Lake being so amazing is actually one of the reasons that I ended up leaving, just because it was so comfortable. There was so much to do, so much to see, but I kind of have been around for a long time and I wanted to try something else. And so that's kind of involved my move out. I don't want to get too far ahead down the road, but that's the main point of leaving. It was great, but there's a lot of things Salt Lake doesn't have, and wanted to go experience those things.
Hell yeah. And so what did your mom do for a living?
My mom was a nurse. Yeah.
How was your dad?
My dad was a physician assistant, and then my stepmom was a physician assistant as well.
Oh, gotcha.
And then my stepfather worked at parts dealerships, and he also restored old motorcycles and cars.
Oh, that's dope. So you had a little bit of all the worlds going on.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of. I got to hear all the disgusting surgery stories at the table, and then also get to ride around the motorcycle. So
right.
awesome. Yeah.
Hell yeah, baby. What was your first job?
My first job was a dishwasher. Actually, there. I didn't get a job till probably a little bit later. I was 19, my first job, but basically just in school, and I was realizing really would like some extra spending money because all the money was basically going towards college and everything. Right. And my buddy, he put up an ad on Facebook, and he was like looking for a host, and I was like, hell yeah,
I'll be a host.
I'd love to be a host. Yeah, that'd be great. I'd dress up, wear a nice shirt. And so I text him like, hey man, I'd love to apply for that host position. And he's all like, host position filled. I need a dishwasher. And I was like, all right, I'll be a dishwasher.
That's dope, man. Hell yeah. So quick. Well, now you're a host, so your dreams came true, baby.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's true. It's full circle.
Full circle, baby.
Yeah.
And so how was that job, dishwashing there? What kind of restaurant was it?
It was great. It was a Japanese restaurant, actually. Full circle again. I'm working at a Japanese restaurant now. But yeah, so it was known for, having some, like a little bit more some of the traditional style, Japanese dishes in the kitchen, but then, really well done sushi. And, in my opinion, it was one of the best sushi restaurants in Salt Salt Lake City. There's a couple other restaurants I'm sure that would disagree with that, but at the same time too, it was really cool to see, the kind of the combination of traditional Japanese dishes in the back of house, and then also, really kind of, traditionally based sashimi and nigiri in the front side there as well. Of course we did some of those silly little rolls, but for the most part, everything was, I felt relatively authentic to what they were trying to go for with, more Japanese style sushi rather than the American, pop rocks and the roll stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Pop rocks in the roll. I haven't seen that one, Chef. That's crazy.
Really?
No.
Oh man.
Is that a thing?
It's happened before, yeah.
Damn. I think for me the shittiest part about shitty sushi, because there is enjoyable lower keel sushi, you know what I mean? But too much sauce.
Yeah.
Too much like mayo all over it.
Yeah.
I'm not good with that.
Yeah, no, you just get all the unagi sauce, sauce, and
they just put it everywhere.
Yeah, and spicy mayo. Just I still can't eat spicy mayo, or at least just really enjoy it for the most part. Unless it's poke, then that's like cool. It gets a pass.
Right. I always get my poke without sauce.
Oh, really?
I don't like the sauce on it. No.
Oh, okay.
I like the crunch and the rice and the fish. I don't need like garlic, soy, fucking mayo. I'm good.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's the allure of poke for me. Is kind of like it feels gluttonous.
Feels dirty.
Yeah, it feels
for a healthy meal.
Exactly. Right.
That's funny.
I'm like, I know I'm eating fish and rice, but man, just throw the mayo on it.
Right. Hey, there you go. You got to get your fill in somewhere.
Exactly.
I feel like if you try to be too much of a good eater, you'll eventually slip into a hole.
Yeah.
Because once you have that McDonald's after you haven't had it for a while, you're like, what about KFC?
Oh man.
You start asking yourself, you're like, why don't I eat this anymore? And then you see some fucking documentary, you're like, that's why.
It's still so good.
I know. So how long you worked there?
So I was at the Naked Fish. I started out as a dishwasher there for about 8 or 9 months, and then you're not actually like allowed to kind of be on the floor and like touch alcoholic drinks till you're 21.
Right.
As like a server or front of house there. But I was there for probably, I want to say almost about 3 years. But yeah, I knew that I wanted to do something other than dishwash, and seeing what the sushi chefs were doing just looked so amazing and cool. And then also too, like the front of house team was like really tight, and everyone was like good friends. And I still have some of my best friends from that restaurant to this day.
Yeah.
And we all still know each other. And a lot of us actually went on to go and do some really cool stuff. Fonzie, who was on the show. Yeah, he was there.
Oh, and no way. He worked there?
Yeah. And then
crazy.
David Hops, who's at Gamma now. He was
Yo.
Sue. Yeah.
I'm about to do a pop-up with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a couple months. Yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, shout out to David.
Yeah, shout out to David and Gamma. If you're up in the North Bay, in Mendocino, you have to go. And then his wife Elise, she's working with Gamma now, but she's like a craftsman in Wolves and stuff. So man, it's kind of a funny
dynasty.
I know, right? Yeah,
a lot of talent coming out of Salt Lake City.
Yeah, to this dead restaurant. It's no longer around anymore.
Do you think that it's viable, or you see a future going back to Salt Lake City?
I mean, I think there's a part of me that's always thought about, going back and, finishing out my career there. I think
shaping the food scene in that town. I feel like it's moldable.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, a lot of what Salt Lake has is, they have some really solid restaurants, but I think, the ownership there is really strange and off. Everyone does a restaurant, and then whether it's working out or not, in about 1 year to a year and a half, it kind of just turns into a lot of the other restaurants that are out there.
I can see that.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people out there that I think are really doing some cool stuff, but I kind of look at Salt Lake just being like, I don't know if it's ready yet. I don't know if it's something that I want to go back and try and be one of those people that did it and failed. But, I'm really loving being out here in California and, being in San Francisco and doing all the amazing things we're doing at Nisei. I'm really lucky. And so I think, if I do something in Salt Lake, it'll probably be a little bit further down the road.
Got it.
You never know.
Yeah. And so after the Naked Fish, what are you deciding? What do you want to do?
Yeah. So, actually, I mean, at the Naked Fish, it kind of came down to this point where I really wanted to be a sushi chef. Like, I saw these guys doing what they were doing, like, just, making nigiri, shaping nigiri, just like making rolls. It seemed awesome there. And, like there's a lot of dedication and, just, it seemed like it was almost like a craft, Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. Cooking is exactly that way in a lot of other places. But sometimes with sushi, you sit up at the counter, you watch all this stuff. It feels something, there's like something like really tangible because you're right next to it there. Right. And I really wanted to do that. But the chef at the time, he was a pretty big asshole. He actually cooked in Japan, and then he would like throw shit at people, and, like, yell at them, and cuss them out in Japanese and things like that. He was white too, by the way.
Get cussed out by a white dude in Japan. Japanese.
But
damn.
I mean, he'd done it for a long, long time, and but I kind of wanted to do that. And then a friend of mine was also like, the guy who got me the job, he was like, hey, I think you do really well on the front of house side. And then it kind of just came down to my buddy Ben pulling me aside, and he's like, hey man, if you want to do this chef stuff, that's great, but just be prepared that it's going to be like really tough. And, you're going to get a lot of shit for it. And I was in school at the time. And so I was like, all right, well, so I'll go over to the front of house side. So I started as a little back waiter and then captain, and then, and then after that, I went up to this place called Log Haven. It's like up in Mill Creek Canyon. It's like this big old log cabin, kind of served up there for a bit. It was pretty cool. And then, that was that. And then after that, a couple other restaurants down in downtown Salt Lake, one place called Rye, and then also a little place called Fresco. It's kind of up where I grew up. But
as you're moving through these restaurants, what's the mindset? Like you're going through a few restaurants. Why are you leaving? Why are you going to the next place?
To be honest, like I never thought of, hospitality, food service industry as a career.
Really?
I was in school. I was convinced I was going to be doing something else. And so
what is that something else?
I mean, well, I got my degree in English literature.
Okay.
I kind of always thought I was going to be like a educator or like a librarian. But a lot of my professors sat me down and they were like, hey man, like I'm lucky to get the job that I have here. Not going to lie, probably in the future, it's not going to be around. So kind of made me want to pivot and figure something out. So I never ended up doing something with it, which is fine, but I feel like I learned a lot, got a good education. I learned how to think independently. That was like the biggest thing I think for being an English lit major for me. But really when it came down to restaurants, like I never, like I said, I thought I was doing something else. So anytime I left a place, it's because I was looking for more money. Right. I had a cooler crew over there. It was just like, this is better for my commute, or like, hey, I made some friends with these guys, and a couple of those guys work there. I might as well just go hang out with some friends and stuff like that. So really no sort of plan as far as, gaining anything. And, looking back now, I probably could have learned so much more than I actually did. But at the same time too, probably just wasn't mentally ready to kind of make that switch, take that next step.
Do you use any of the things you did back in the day today?
I mean, sometimes, but for the most part, I think the biggest thing for me that I learned back in the day is just like really tight knit, close dynamic within a restaurant. I think that was that first place that kind of taught me that, the people around you, as much as they are your coworkers, they're the people that you share the majority of your life with. And, it's really important to make sure that, these relationships, I think, are maintained, whether that's to the point where you're buddy slapping hands all the time, or to the point where, you can understand your differences and respect that person for being different.
Right.
Maybe you don't work well with them, but at the same time, getting along to the point where you can still do your job. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I kind of picked up from a lot of these places. And also by going around to so many different restaurants, I just met so many amazing people that eventually went on to do some more cool stuff in the industry here. Right. So, whether I knew it or not, it's just making connections.
Dope. Hell yeah. And so, what made you leave Salt Lake City? Did you leave right after school?
No. Also, I graduated in 2014 from college there, 2015 actually.
Right.
And then basically I was kind of just, anything that I wanted to do, I still thought I wanted to be like a librarian. And so I kind of was like, oh, that'll take a little extra schooling because you got to get a master's degree for it. And I said, you know what, I'm just going
to be a master's to be a librarian?
Yeah, man.
And so what? Why?
I mean, I'm for a lot of the reasons there. I mean, sometimes too, you think about it, like I always wanted to work in like a college library where definitely. You see like people are curating some amazing collections, whether that's, Middle Eastern, educational books or wherever you are, whether that's kind of rare books, things like that.
Right.
Basically, you kind of have to really be up with the times too as well, because oftentimes these libraries too, that's where you're getting the 3D printers, that's where like the best technology is coming in. There's all these like shareable things for within a university community. Like these guys got to be the ones to like bring that there and also make sure that students know how to use and access a lot of these things.
Right.
So
it's like the R&D lab.
Yeah, kind of. Oh, maybe. But either way, I think for the most part, for getting a master's for library science is just because you know, you're basically kind of being involved with educating a community. So just like, you know, you want to get like a teaching degree and things like
definitely.
that. So, yeah.
Okay. Damn. Shout out to librarians.
Yeah.
Fucking get some respect out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, because like there's no, is there any celebrity librarians?
I doubt it.
Right.
I doubt it. Maybe with like TikTok and the stuff that's happening nowadays, you're seeing like teachers and certain people kind of get more highlights.
Prominence.
But yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be one someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be a librarian podcast.
Yeah.
I know there is. Crazy. So, God, where were we? We're still in Salt Lake.
Yeah.
Okay. And how long did you stay there after
Yeah, so I went
that sort of journey?
Yeah, I went up to for about 2 years up in Park City, and I started working up there. Went through kind of, you know, working Sundance, you know, busy season summer, you know, crazy busy season in the winter and things like that. And then just kind of realized I wanted to change something up. And so I had a friend that was living out in San Francisco, and she was kind of the guy she was seeing at the time. He was working for a couple bars, and she was like, "Hey, maybe see if you can like move out for 3 months and just like work for this, you know, kind of like catering bar event thing." And so I said, okay, let's see. So I started kind of ask around and basically found this house, and then it was like, yeah, we can be there for 3 months. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm just going to go for 3 months. And then in talks, so like, actually we need someone for 6 months. And then in talks to like, actually we need someone to put their name on the lease. So basically decided to move out there for a year and just see what happened. Yeah.
And so during that year, what the fuck happened?
Dude, really, I remember the second day, 2 days before I was about to leave.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, he was like, "Hey, my friend Kevin, he's going to like put you in contact with this guy at this restaurant. It's called Atelier Cren. He's going to see if you can, you know, maybe get a job there, something like that, see if they need anybody." And I was like, okay, cool. Like, what kind of restaurant is it? And they're like, "Oh, it's French." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Like, never worked with French food, but you know, sounds super French." So, he called me up and he's like, "Hey, can you like come for a stage?" And I was like, I have no idea even what a stage means. You know, I had no clue. Like, it's just like Michelin. I had not even heard of, I didn't even know what a Michelin restaurant is when I fucking moved out here.
Right.
And so he's like, okay, cool. And all right. So then 2 days, you know, me and my buddy load up everything that I can fit into my entire car, just my entire life. And then we just drove out. And so one day, the first night, we hung out, ate some food. Next day, I go to this interview, and I show up wearing my best pair of pants, nice white shirt with the tie. And then I sit down for this interview with this guy Maxime, and he is so French, and he's just like terrifying. He's just like sitting there, like staring at me, just like angry, just like looking at me, like I could not understand a single thing. He's like, "So what do you know about wine?" And I was like,
nothing.
It's like nothing, I guess. I have no clue. Like, I've served by the glass before and things like that. And and then just kind of freaking out the entire interview, just like, you know, seeing this restaurant, seeing all these chefs, like, you know, wearing beautiful white coats just to prep, you know, and things like that. Just gorgeous, amazing dining room. And just like sitting there thinking like, oh shit, what have I done? Like, what am I doing out here? You know? And so he's like, "Hey, you know, this is a great interview. Can you come back in an hour and 15 minutes for a stage?" I was like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be tomorrow." He's like, "No, it's going to be tonight. And I need you to get a jacket." And I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll get a jacket." And so basically I sprint out of that interview and I go to my buddy. I was like, "I need a jacket for this stage." And so basically he is like, "All right, cool." We go do a shot, and then he picks me up, and then he starts driving around Market, like circling, and I'm running into all the places. And I don't know if you know, I'm a pretty big guy.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Finding a jacket is
not easy.
Not easy at all. So I eventually was able to go over to Uniqlo and buy like this tiny little jacket made for smaller men. There
Right.
And it's just like so tight, but it's the only thing I can like muscle myself into. And I'm wearing these nice like blue pants, but I need black pants. And the only black pants I have are at the bottom of a hamper that has been in the back of a car for like 2 days. And they're just like
crinkly, baby.
Gross. Yeah. So, they're crinkly. I threw them on. There's a fucking hole in the back. I threw them on. I kept pulling down my jacket because it wouldn't fit. It was just to cover the hole. And then, and then I get it. I make it to the stage there. I'm 15 minutes late. Kevin's texting me during his like lineup, and he's like, "Where the fuck are you? Like, what are you doing right now?" And I was all like, I have no clue. I'm losing my mind. And my buddy gets me there, and he's just like sends me in, and then I do the stage, and then they offered me the job that night. So
that's just dope, man. What was the stage like? What'd you do? Observe?
I really just followed around. I was like, I remember the first time they told me to go put something down on the table. They were like, "Hey, you did that wrong," and I was like, "What?" I just put a piece of silverware down on the table. They're like, "No, you have to do it like open hand," and like showing me all these like little things. I just remember just being like, wow, this is just like a completely different world. It's just like, I've been serving for 6-7 years, and then coming out here,
no, you don't know shit.
Yeah, the first thing I did was just like I put a fork down wrong,
right? Right.
And it was just, and for me that was almost just kind of like, that was so cool, like just being like, oh my god, there's like a proper way to do something, and it just like, it felt like, every serving job I ever worked, I've always thought like, oh, I can get a job at this restaurant, I can do this, I can do this. And it's the first time I felt like, wow, like maybe this is something I can't do. And it was cool to like rise up to a challenge and change and, push myself to do something, even if it's just like, marking a table and something like that, which I thought was really cool. So then I was there for a year, and that was the first year in San Francisco.
Wow. 1 year at Atelier Cren.
Yeah.
What's your starting position there?
I was a back waiter.
Right.
Yeah.
For who? Who's your host?
Oh.
Who's the captain?
So the captain, we had two captains. When I first started, it was his name was Hernan, and he was amazing. He went on to, he's now an artist. I can't remember, what he does now. He's no longer in the food service industry, but he was amazing and just super helpful for me. And then the other guy was Sasha, and Sasha was also called the Ferrari.
The Ferrari,
okay. Man. Yeah, because he went fast. And I think Sasha really, really pushed me a lot, which was really cool to see. He was definitely one of those people that, him and I both really liked, kind of hardcore music and metal and stuff like that. So I think he kind of took a liking to me right away. And it's not like he's a difficult guy to get along with, but I think he saw from me, how much I really cared about, wanting to do well there.
Right.
And and he kind of helped me a lot. But I think, honestly, the biggest mentor that I had at Cren was Kevin. Because Kevin and I had known each other a little bit. We'd met a couple times before I came out. But he was really good friends with my buddy, who's the one who drove me out. He's also the same guy that got me the job at Naked Fish back in the day. A really old friend. But yeah, he looked out for me really, really hard those first few bits. To be honest, when I first started there too, they were like, hey, we're going to just try you here for a month. And if you don't do well, you can go over to, Petite Cren and work. And so I was like, that first month, I was like, there's no way I'm getting sent to Petite Cren. I was like, I just put my head down and crushed as hard as I could. I tried to learn everything that I could. I was trying to be on point. It's like never late, took the bus, arrived like an hour early, and would just go sit outside and read, then come in on time, and then work as hard as I possibly could.
Right.
But yeah, Kevin, he was one of those people that really kind of pushed that spirit of working hard. I saw what he was doing every day, because him and I would go lift weights in the morning, and then he would stay, and then he would leave, and then he would go into work at like 10 a.m. and then he would stay all the way to like 1 a.m.
Right.
And then still get up and do all this stuff. Whereas like, I'm sleeping until 11 if I can there. But yeah, just working with him was amazing, and that whole team was just unreal. But
damn, that's crazy.
No.
And so that menu is pretty extensive. I've never had it, but it's written like a poem. I do know that.
Yeah.
How many courses?
If I remember correctly, when I was there, it was about 10. But Chef Juan Contreras at the time, he had like a whole separate menu. So basically, the whole menu went through with Dominique's stuff, and then we switched out. Like we put down a new mat, and then it was Chef Juan's story, and that was like another 6 courses, which was insane.
Whoa! When was that decided? How did he?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think for him, Dominique, a lot of the restaurant, I think, has kind of been her story for a lot of things there.
Definitely.
So I think she wanted to offer it up to give it over to him, kind of tell his story. So everything, was like Mexican themed there as well, and kind of Aztec. He had like hand carved all this stuff. I'm just like, I don't know if you know him or know of him.
I don't know him.
Oh, he is one of the most hardworking guys I've ever seen. But like everything he did was like hand carved. Like he did it all himself and things like that. Like, so intricate and delicate, when anything broke, you could just see his soul leave his body. You know, he like put all that time into it. Yeah. But yeah, he just like, but it was super cool to see that. So that was in 2017. I don't know how long they'd been doing it before I got there, but that was another thing too for me. It's just like, you know, seeing pastries, you know, being plated like that. You know, it was nuts.
And then, so you spent a year there. What made that decision? Like, what made you leave?
Yeah, the real reason I wanted to leave, I had to leave actually, was just because I was kind of tired of being a back waiter, you know, and
there was no room to move.
No room to move up. So you know, I got there when they had 2 stars, and then about, I think it was about 4 months after I left, they got their third star as well. So you know, in my mind, I'm like, I was a part of that. You know,
right.
It takes like 2 months to print the book, right? You know, they got to know beforehand.
There you go.
Yeah, so you know, I always thought that, but for me, it was just that they were really pushing for 3 stars, and they wanted someone with more experience that had been in Michelin and fine dining. Right. So I don't like fault them for that at all. But you know, at the same time, I think for me, you know, I have not worked in those Michelin star restaurants before, so I didn't really know the lay of the land as far as your body language, your communication. But I had been working as a server for a long time. So once I got the, like, you know, the reps in to basically know how to be sommelier, know how things work, you know, that's where I kind of felt like I really want to be doing what I'm good at doing, which is serving tables, being with guests, interacting with them. Right. So for me, I was like, I really want a captain position. So I left. I left for that reason. You know, not because anything was weird or got bullied out, but just I really wanted to do something. Wasn't available there, so I went somewhere else to do it. Right.
And did you find this spot while you were still there?
Yeah.
Did you have any?
I did. Yeah. So actually, I had taken my introductory sommelier and passed. That was like one of the perks that they gave me, like 6 months in. They were like, we're going to pay for your intro sommelier, because they saw, they saw I wanted to do more. And I think, you know, if you want to be a captain in San Francisco, you got to learn the wine stuff. You got to know all the knowledge. And so they were kind of like, hey, we'll kind of push this forward. And then in my introductory, I'd actually met, this woman named Kayleen, and she was actually over at Californios. And so we had kind of known each other for a little bit, and I actually started dating her sister for a little while. And then so we were always kind of friends. And then one day she was kind of like, hey, we're kind of looking for someone over at Californios. Why don't you just come like stage for a day? Yeah. And I didn't even really know that I wanted to leave. And then I staged, and I was like, I absolutely want to leave. You know, I want to go off and do something on my own and get an opportunity. So
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you start at Californios.
Yeah.
Badass restaurant.
It is such a badass restaurant. I love that restaurant. It's still probably one of my favorite restaurants I've ever worked at to this day. Yeah.
Was Joe Geiskoff there when you were working there?
No, it was I don't even know who Joe Geiskoff is.
I think he worked with Val back in the day. I did my first podcast with Val with Joe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, who went to go be the CDC at Pineapples and Pearls, and then I think he bounced to Houston, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So shout out to him. Great chef.
Yeah, no, when I was there, David Yoshimura was my CDC.
Okay.
And that's how him and I met to eventually go on to do Nisei.
Right. And at that point, when you get there, is David talking about Nisei? Is that like a thing? Does people know he's going to do this?
You know, actually, David was going to be doing something very similar to Nisei, but he was actually going to be doing it with my GM at Californios. So they actually left to go do their own thing. A couple of things happened, I guess, with like family and things like that. And then 2020, you know, everything hit there as well. And so the kind of thing got pushed back. So David didn't reach out to me till way down the line there. So, you know, I'd always, you know, been good friends with David, but it never occurred to me that like him and I would be, you know, opening up his place.
Right. Damn. So he's the CDC at Californios. What was the food like? Like what drew you in?
I mean, I think for me, the biggest thing is that, you know, Atelier Cren, you know, lovely, beautiful, smooth, like, you know, it just feels opulent, luxury. I got to Californios, it was like white tablecloths, everything's black. They're blasting music during like setup and things like that. Yeah. They've got like skulls everywhere. People are not taking themselves extremely seriously, and sorry, not too seriously. They're taking themselves seriously, but not like too seriously. And it just felt like an amazing place. Like the team, the front of house team was like 5 people. Yeah. You know, it's like really kind of like tight quarters. Yeah. All the captains were pairing wine, all the captains were, selling by the glass, even selling balls and things like that, whereas Kren, it was like, you have your captain, you have your sommelier, and you have your back waiter. And, every now and then people overlap, but everyone has this like set duties. Whereas like Californios, it just felt like everyone did everything. And it felt amazing. Like it was really just cool. You felt like everything that happened there was absolutely because of you. You didn't feel like a little piece of a thing there as well. That was kind of like contribute to a big thing. Like you felt like it was your restaurant in that moment. And that's what I loved about Californios.
Damn.
Yeah.
What was your starting position?
I was a captain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Came in captain.
Yeah.
Woo.
I know.
That's awesome.
It was so cool, man. And yeah, it was like such small, like the walk-in was in the back, right next to the bathroom. Like there was like that front little cooking area where the chef stood, and then the pastry kitchen was in the side, and that was it.
That was it.
Like so tiny. It just felt like badass. It felt like punk rock, like rock and roll. Like, oh, we're getting this shit done no matter what's happening. Whereas like other places, budget's out the window, and for us to be there doing that, like it just felt real.
Right. Damn. And so as you're going through this journey at Californios, how long did you stay there?
I was at Californios for about 1 year and 9 months.
1 year and 9 months. Okay. At this point, when you're working at the restaurant, do you see yourself leaving, or are you like, this is so badass, I'm going to stay and be like, what is there after captain?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for me, I didn't say I had any ambitions to be past captain, but Californios is where I got my certified sommelier, so my level 2. And that's where I feel like I really kind of took a big step forward with my wine there as well. Right. And now I kind of wanted to look into some management stuff here. So I'm starting to like look and see around and what's out there. Excuse me.
It's okay.
Yeah. And then basically, I never thought I wanted to leave Californios exactly, but at the same time, I was like, there's got to be something where I can get into this, because Californios was shorn up. Like there's just like hot shots. Like my buddy Casey was the GM there. He was killing it. Yeah. The Gm-Beverage director, his name was Junebach. He is just unreal. Like he was crushing it too. And it's such a small team. With 5 people, 2 managers of them being 2 of the 5 people being managers. You're kind of like not really sure what else you want to do. So for me, I was like, I don't think I was ready to be in management when I left there, and I didn't go straight into management actually when I did leave, but it wasn't on the radar yet. I feel like I wasn't ready for it.
Right. And just like when you were at Kren, did you see the next place kind of rolling ahead of you as you left the place, or?
Not exactly. In fact, the next place kind of turned into an interesting thing, which was Harbor House.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
And so Harbor House was kind of one of those situations where like, it's just, that's like a life change,
Yeah.
You just moving out into the middle of nowhere,
right.
Just being with, another very small team, but just doing some amazing things. And I think the biggest thing that drew me to Harbor House is because I still think it's one of the best restaurants in California. Like the food
definitely
is just unfucking real. Like,
I mean, no one can touch it.
No.
Yeah, no one. And that's the thing that we had at Meadowood for a time, was like, no one else can do what we're doing.
Yeah.
But when you're in the city, like, regardless of what farm you get it from, the guy next to you has it too. Yeah. He's got that same beet, that same carrot, and so it starts to get muddled. But when you're out there by your fucking self with 1 cow a year and shit, you know what I mean? Like looking for getting seaweed, making your own salt. Like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that to this day that place doesn't have more stars.
It's pretty crazy to me. I think they're getting to those right places and things like that there, but yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised when this most recent guide came out. I was like expecting it for them. I was kind of
for sure, yeah. So maybe it'll be a shot right up to 3. Yeah, but I definitely think that it's 2 right now. As it stands. I haven't been there since the last time I went there. So
yeah, I haven't been. It's probably been about a little over a year since I've been too. But,
okay. Yeah. So when you moved up there, like, what was that like? Like, did you even take half your shit, or did you just leave everything here?
The funny thing about moving up there is actually like, the houses are actually a little bit bigger than in
San Francisco, there you go.
Really nice. So
the rent is nice.
More space than I had there, but I lived on a 14-acre property.
Okay.
Basically, it was in the at my house, like this little cabin in the back of the woods, and around it was all these like crazy, weird, like falling down buildings that were kind of around it, because I guess it used to be like an azalea farm back in the 60s, and they used to do like like music festivals on the property and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it was kind of weird, kind of eerie being back there, especially, when you're by yourself, but at the same time too, it's just like you're just in the middle of nowhere. It just felt amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long did you live that life?
I was there for about 1 year and 9 months again.
Okay, got you. So you're just getting that knowledge.
Yeah.
And did you just get tired of being up there?
I think the biggest thing for me is, it's kind of changing things. So, when I first moved out there, I moved out with my partner there as well, and then we ended up splitting. And then, being 29, 30 years old in Mendocino, where the average age is like 55.
There's no dating.
And the closest big city is in, like Ukiah, which is still like an hour and 15 minutes away. It's just, I didn't move out because I wanted to, date, but at the same time, it can be a little bit more of an isolating community. And I think that's why, a lot of people, I think, that stay out there for a long time usually move out with a partner. As a couple that moves out to, because, there's no place like it. Like if I had a teleporter to go from San Francisco here, this side back to Mendocino, there's no doubt in my mind I would want to live out there. It would be unreal. But I think the biggest thing that for me, getting out of Mendocino was also to just the opportunity that came up with David.
Right. And that's such a small team up there at Harbor House. Was it hard to did you have to get 6 months notice? Like, how do you replace a you know?
I mean, so for the most part, I've always given 3+ months notice wherever I leave there. I try and do my best for it. So I gave Matt, I think it was 4 months notice, if I remember correctly, there as well. So, but he replaced me with a couple, I can't remember the names off the top of the head. They actually ended up taking over the place that I live because it's so hard to find places to live up there. But I mean, it took 2 people to replace me, obviously. No,
hey, baby, it's all good.
No, but at the same time too, I think they found the right people out there as well, because the people that want to be out there, it just works. You just make it work, and you embrace a whole new lifestyle. And it was actually probably one of the best times of my life. I was out there during 2020 and everything, so I got to be kind of alone on this big property and isolating there. And then Harbor House had the nice luxury of actually having a patio that's twice the size of the dining room. In fact, when you came out, when I met you, you sat on the patio and ate, if I remember correctly, too.
I did, yeah. Wintertime, shit was cold as fuck.
It was cold as fuck.
What are you guys wearing? Fucking thermal underwear out there? Dude,
I have my long underwear on.
I bet, man. So I was cold as shit. That was when I was just trying to get this podcast started, and I was like, you got to do whatever it takes. And so I worked the shift at Charter Oak, drove up there, did the podcast with homie, and then I drove back down.
Really?
And worked the next day. I was like, hey, nobody else is gonna fucking do this for me, I was like, if I want to talk to the greatest chefs, I gotta go see them. And also just gets your face. I meet you, right? Here we are, full circle, doing the show.
Yeah.
And so David calls you. What's that phone call like?
I mean, that phone call is actually just kind of like, hey, I'm opening this thing up, and I don't really have anyone else here, and I'm looking for someone. And he said, I'm looking for a GM, I'm looking for an AGM. I'm not really looking for a beverage director or anything like that, because I got this guy short up. He's going to be over on the bar side. And then he's going to kind of run the beverage program between Nisei and Iris as well. So he'll do the cocktails, and then he'll do the wine list over here. And so for me, I haven't managed anywhere. Never done a managing position before in my life. Yeah. And so in my mind, I'm like, hell yeah, he wants me to be his AGM. And then I talked to a couple friends, and they're all like, you idiot. He wants you to manage his restaurant. He doesn't want you to be the AGM. He's calling you first to ask you about this stuff.
Yeah.
And it kind of took me a little bit of convincing on my own. And then I was like, no, I think I would have been miserable if I tried to take an AGM position, because I've been wanting to be a manager for so long. I couldn't get it at Harbor House, wasn't really there at Californios, and it was way far away from ever doing something like that at Kren. And so this is kind of the opportunity, so I took it.
Yeah. Hell yeah, baby. You took the opportunity, and what's that like? I mean, he's opening the restaurant, so how far away from opening was he when he came on?
He reached out to me in February of 2021, and then he's like, I got a space. And so we basically kind of looking at that there, and then the goal was to open up around August, which we actually did open up in August, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, right? Yeah. You actually opened on the month you said you were going to opened
up on a restaurant. It might have been July, but we opened
a whole
up,
fucking restaurant. Goddamn.
1 month late, I think, is actually how it was. which is just insane to think about.
When I came through and did the podcast in the office there, it was like still construction going down.
Oh yeah,
in the space.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and
it's so nuts to see, because that space used to be La Folie.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Still, people come in. They come in like to eat there for their anniversary because it's just the same building.
Who's the chef there? What's his name? Roland.
Yeah.
Bro, I've heard crazy fucking stories about that restaurant.
Really?
Yeah, like that restaurant is one, historic. Two, my homie over here at the Oakland spot, the Colombian Fine Dining, I forget the fucking name of it. I had him on the show, and he told me he used to be his fucking CDC, and he was like, this guy is insane.
Really?
It's just one of those French dudes who, like, you're in the shits no matter what, and, like, it takes as long as it takes, and, like, you'll get the food when it's ready kind of shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just, like, that hardcore of a dude. Chef Mark is his name over in Oakland. So he told me crazy stories, and then my boy Tyler from Truffle Shuffle, he also went and staged for the homie.
Really?
And he was like, that was the craziest restaurant experience I've ever had. And motherfucker worked at the French Laundry, and he was like, that was more intense than I've ever felt in my whole life. And just because of that, because the dude would like start butchering fish for the fish course, like the course before, and like put himself in the shits intentionally, and then not let anybody help and just yell, So it was crazy.
That's insane. I think that place has been around. Well, when they closed down, it was 35 years, I think. It's like one of the oldest restaurants in San Francisco. I mean,
Definitely.
not in San Francisco, but as far as fine dining is concerned. Yeah, it's like one of the first stars too. It's crazy.
Damn, Mark Lieberman. Boom. I don't know what episode it is, but he's the homie. I saw him at the farmers market the last time, the Marin County Farmers Market, which they moved to the other side now. I don't know if you've been.
I haven't.
But yeah, it used to be in this other spot, and I was in this. It's like next to a mall.
Really? I'm up in Sonoma now, so I gotta find something up there.
Sonoma,
so
there you
shout
go.
out to anyone if you know any good farmers markets up there.
Right. There's gotta be one. Well, they got that Tuesday night one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they got the night market.
Yeah, the night market is dope. They got music out there, and
is that only summer, or do they do it all year?
I think they do it only in the summer, maybe starting in like March or something.
Okay,
maybe when it starts to get a little warmer out.
Hell yeah.
I'm not sure. Damn. So you started Nisei, you open it up, and like, what were the biggest triumphs? What were the biggest failures in the beginning?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for us was really just kind of getting the doors open. You know, also too, I think for me, one of the biggest triumphs for me in that first year is that about 3 months before we were set to open up, beverage director drops out.
Oof.
Yeah. So basically, David's like, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And he's like, "I think you can do it." I was like, "Hell yeah, I can do this." Yeah. And so opening up and like doing pairings with everything, it's just it's crazy, and to think that I was only going to be an AGM when I first thought about even doing this, and now I'm the GM and doing the beverages too behind it is just nuts. But honestly, I think it was like those first weeks, man, were just nuts. The first week, we did a whole week of training. 2 people instantly just drop out on the first day, like the opening day, friends and family, which is August 4th. The host and one of the captains like no call, no show, just like don't show. And so, I'm calling my girlfriend. I'm like, "Hey, can you like come host for us?" And she did. She hosted for like the whole first week of this. Yeah, we're calling.
Takes a village.
That first month, man. Like, and then also too, like, I want to say like 3 of our front of house staff got hit with COVID, and I got COVID the 3rd week being open there as well. It was just nuts, just running around, super
Getting
crazy
buried.
stuff. Yeah, and just like basically, we had like baristas coming to work. We had friends of friends coming to work the host stand. All these things, just trying to get everything going. That first few bit, was just nuts. And for me too, this is one of the biggest restaurants as far as like tasting menus that I've worked there. The most that we have done in a night there is like 72, whereas like Cren 45, California is 38, Harbor House is 20. It's the most you can ever do in that dining room.
Yeah.
So for me, kind of making that adjustment to kind of doing a lot more, really pushing on turn times and stressing about that stuff. That was tough.
But like doing a tasting menu, that was always the craziest sort of hat trick or like little trick that happens, because you're like, you came for this experience, first turn, but like we need that table back. So how do we get it back? But like also you don't feel rushed. you know, and I'm sure Bar Iris helps a lot with that.
Bar does, yeah,
for
especially
sure.
that first little bit. Also, the magic word is kitchen tour.
Whoa, kitchen tour.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn, I forgot about those.
Just pick it up, and then while they're up in the tour, you just reset the table, and then when they come back out, you give them your gift bags and just, push them out the door.
Yeah, push them out the door, and they're like, oh, fuck. Crazy. So you're obviously busy when you first opened. Was there a lull after that?
It was super busy for that first little bit there, and say almost all the way into December, and then we closed for a week for a little vacation. We came back, and that was the newest release of Omicron.
Right.
That slowed things down quite a bit there.
Definitely, people freaking out about that.
Yeah, everyone I think was just kind of like scared of the second round coming back, having to go back into quarantine. So everyone I think took it almost a little bit more seriously there. Sounded like New York didn't give a fuck whatsoever. We're hearing
they're like, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, they're not doing it. So, but San Francisco being the city that it is.
Yeah, out here, man.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was a little tough to kind of slow down and then kind of pick back up again. But it's and then starting to learn the highs and the lows, the lulls, where they're happening and things like that.
Right. And so at that point, you had a lot of turnover. When do you feel like you got that staff that's like you sort of retained, and like when did that happen?
Yeah, I think the hiring process probably happened about, I'd say almost about a year and a half ago. We really just kind of got a little core group of people there. And it's funny too, because the people that are all there, excuse me.
All good.
Yeah. They're not the ones that are like, I'm looking for a Michelin star restaurant. Like I want to be a sommelier. I want to be these things. It kind of just, happened in that sense there. There's a couple people that, they all had worked in restaurants, things like that. But I think that was like also one thing that I'm always super proud of is when we got that first star, no one on the front of the house had ever worked in a Michelin star restaurant before. And that was really cool to me to kind of like, be a part of something too, to kind of like build some of that. I think that was super, I was super proud of that. And I was just so proud of them too, because, seeing what they've done, how far they've pushed themselves to go out of their comfort zone of what they're used to. It was really, really tough. But at the same time too, their willingness to change and not have an ego about it and, kind of think of something a little bit bigger than themselves was unreal.
Yeah.
And that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did, so you get your Michelin star, right? How does that feel?
It feels insane. Like I said, it's really funny. I always seem to leave a restaurant and then like 3 minutes later they upgrade their star. And so for me, like I've actually never been at a restaurant, despite working at all these places I've been at. I came into California's and they had 2. I came into Atelier when they had 2, but I left 3 months after they got 3. And then Harbor House, they had 1. And then let's say like 5 months after I left, they got 2, and stuff like that. And so for me, like this is the first time I ever was at a place where like, it was, we got it. And I was at the ceremony, it was like so crazy to think about that. At first I was like, oh, it's just gonna be a ceremony. I'll wear a suit, and like you show up and there's all these star chefs walking around taking pictures. We're at like, there's like Lamborghinis and everywhere and stuff like that. I mean, we're at an automotive museum, so don't get me wrong, but like, they're pouring Krug, there's caviar, like it just felt so surreal to like be, it's like the Oscars for
right. It definitely is, man.
It's nuts. As much as, problems with Michelin and things like that, and, the worries about it, this is like the pinnacle of our industry.
It does.
So,
it puts the asses in the seats.
Yeah. And so to be there and like get my own and get my first one, that was insane, man. Like I can't sometimes I still just am like shocked by it, like to think that something that I built or helped build, it's not just me. It's a lot of people that are involved in doing that. Could be recognized for something like that was really important.
Definitely. I mean, look, Michelin stars are important. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. It's like, you don't bat an eye at the Oscars or a Grammys, but as soon as a chef gets an award, it's like, well, fuck that guy. And honestly, it's all just jealousy. No. We need to be more happy for each other in this industry, and then things would go way better.
I agree. There's a lot of people, kind of comparing themselves to everyone else around them. Someone goes up, someone goes down. It's like, maybe you just had an off night when someone was in there. Who the hell knows what the reasons are for it? But at the same time, breaking each other down just doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. It's too small of a city. It's too small of an industry.
Especially when a spot loses a star, because it's always like a very hush-hush thing with like, oh, they lost their star.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, fuck it.
What must have happened
there?
There?
It's like,
I don't really know what happened, but I can guarantee if you go to that restaurant, you probably have a solid fucking meal.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Up to like the opinions of however many people go there. I always wondered how the inner workings of the Michelin, it's got to be a secret society of fucking. Do you think that there's people that you know right now who are Michelin inspectors, but like they can't say?
I don't know that many people that eat out that much.
That's right.
So maybe there would be there. I mean, I guess from what I understand, they have to eat out like 230 times a year or something like that. And they also don't pay any money. So I don't know anyone that broke that eats out that much. So
there you go.
Yeah. So
average salary of a Michelin fucking inspector. Yeah. What is it? Who knows? Crazy. So what does the future hold for you? Are you guys ever gonna like branch out and do a restaurant group? Is that in the works?
I mean, I think it's kind of in the works. I think for David, as far as something I'm gonna be involved with there, I haven't really decided if that's something I'd want to like actually leave Nisei for to kind of go up and do. It'd be another one of those things that kind of that same AGM GM conversation that I have with myself. It's like, is that something that I can actually do? Never done it, but at the same time too, I think if the opportunity came up, I definitely would be interested because, there's so many like little facets that kind of come with, once you get into the upper levels of management in a restaurant group or even sort of company, there's so many ways you can go about it. And especially with like front of house too, it's like, you can work at places that are restaurants and hotels.
Yeah.
You can work at places that are, just hotels that have like small little restaurants or like do bigger catering events. Like there's so many different facets you can get into. And so I think for doing a restaurant group, I would definitely be interested. But, sometimes too, I'm like, oh my gosh, how far down the road is that? It's like, is that something we can even do?
Yeah.
Like I still feel like we're pushing at Nisei and still trying to get some of the goals that we have done here. It's like,
definitely.
It almost feels like, I don't think that we'll be moving towards something like that until we really kind of get some more stuff set in stone at Nisei.
Mm-hmm. And how does menu ideation go? Like, do you pair? Is it like Chef David's like, here's the dish, pair it? Or is he like, hey, I'm thinking about this? Or do you ever come to him and say, I got this bottle, these are the notes, like, can you fucking do something?
Yeah, so I think that's actually a really good question. And that's something that I thought would have been a lot easier when I first started. Like, don't get me wrong, I knew a good amount about wine and all that stuff there, but really like, and the thing that was the funniest, I think, was really just like being able to talk with David about a new dish. You got to be able to work with someone for a long time before you can kind of start to see where their brain clicks and goes. Like I've been at California and I work with David, but and he'd help put out new dishes with Val, but at the same time, it wasn't his food.
Right.
So learning how he likes his food, we, I think, would get a lot of the right pairings correct in the first year, but it would take like multiple iterations. Sometimes we'd be all like, this is as close as I can get before I can go pick up some more wine,
right.
Or before the rep comes in with some taste, this and that. But nowadays, talking to him, asking the right questions, knowing the food that he likes to cook, that helps me out so much. And just like having a dialogue with my chef and just understanding, what it's going to be on paper and then into a dish there, it's so much more helpful, I think, just with the experience. And I didn't realize that you need to almost develop those relationships with someone and kind of get to know them so you can kind of riff off of each other to create some of the best stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the best restaurants have that GM and chef relationship.
Yeah,
that you both push each other, you both are there for each other, right? You're like the counsel, and it's a relationship that I don't think you can explain to anybody that doesn't have it or hasn't had it.
Yeah.
And the greatest restaurants have that, like you got Manilo at TFL, like just people been there for fucking 30 years. What human being, people don't even stay married that long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you see it time and time again. So, and honestly, you look at fucking Will Guidara and all the shit that he's doing now with, after the career. So that must be cool to see for you, like someone like that, where it's like, wow, he was doing what I was doing, years ago. And as you think of your career, because I'm always like looking forward, I'm like, what does it look like in 10 years?
Yeah, man. And that's something I constantly question myself with, is just being like, what's going to be next? Do I want to do something more with wine? Do I want it to move into a bigger restaurant group down the road and, be more on the upper side of that there? Like, where is it? And, for me right now, I still feel like this being my first, kind of go around at being a manager and a beverage director, like first time doing either, I still really want to stick around here for a bit and just kind of see what's going on. And to kind of test the waters with, things that I feel like can maybe change and just, grow and learn. That's the biggest thing for me.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
What do you look for when you hire?
When I hire?
Yeah.
Oh, man. When I hire staff, I usually always look for someone. That just has that kind of like connection with a guest, and it's really hard on a stage. It's really, really hard to do because for the most part, usually with a stage, you're kind of shitting yourself. And especially with front of house too, they're usually kind of told not to really do much because there's like such an intricate dance, and things like that. And also too, sometimes you don't know where they are, what they're doing. So I'll try and like maybe usually put them in a situation where they maybe have to interact with a guest or talk with someone,
right?
Or even just kind of giving them maybe a goal that's a little bit more arbitrary and then seeing how they kind of suss that out. But the biggest thing for me is kind of what they're going to do, when like in front of a guest. And that's the biggest thing for me because, you can train someone how to put down a fork just like I was trained. You can train someone how to fill up a glass to 5 ounces. You can teach them how to, tie their tie right. You can teach them to check a bathroom every 15 minutes. But what you can't teach is just that kind of like innate raw ability to like make a guest feel welcome and comfortable. And so that's typically the thing that I look for too. And also too, in a lot of interviews, I look for them to do that for me as well. If they can sometimes successfully do that with me, make me feel a little bit more welcome and comfortable, it just means that like when the pressure's on in a hiring situation, when it comes to on the floor situation, I think at the same time, like that would really help. And almost everyone that is on the staff at some point kind of has done that with me there.
Fuck yeah, Ian. Yeah. When Chef David was like, yo, I reached out to him. I was like, yo, I'd love to do a podcast with your pastry chef, with your GM. And he was like, I don't think Ian will do it, but I'll see. I'll give him the number. And here you are, fucking just well spoken, sir.
I mean, yeah, it's I think for me is that like I've always thought about doing one of these podcasts, but I thought at one point I was like, I'll never be ready. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it now. Yeah. I think I've been doing something well for a little bit here, and I'm not gonna say I'm perfect and all those things, but I know a lot of people like what I do, and if there's anything that can go to your listeners, I'm happy to help.
Right? Yeah, for sure. The people that listen to this are young people in the industry, and they all need something to look up to, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to find these days. And I know that someone out there will find some knowledge from this conversation. You know what I mean? And you got 1 star now, and I'll talk to you when you have 2 stars, and I'll talk to you when you get fucking 3 stars. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, Susio talk, baby. Oakland, bitch. Boom. Haley on next, and then maybe
Garabato?
Yeah.
Tight.
Yeah.
That's tight.
Yeah, she's coming. Haley Garabato coming next.